Wow, hello! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Dee Dee, how's it going? Hi, Art. Hi, Ranger. Hi, Zon. Going back to the frosty question and like the ozone layer and the atmosphere and all that stuff. Aerosols blowing a hole in the ozone layer sounds like one of those so strange it must be true, but no way it's actually true kind of things. It's like, what? Hairspray? And we're recovering from that. I do recall that, yes. Because people, that's like one of those things where it's like, here's the proof that people can change their lifestyles to something better for the sake of the environment. The issue is if it's too big of a leap. Because, I mean, we still have hairspray to this day, but from my understanding, whatever aerosols were harmful are no longer in use. So that's, you know... Now, if only we do the same thing with warming. Well, that's the thing, right? Global warming. Those darn earthworms, they're everywhere, man. Y'all, it's a sad day for me. My favorite professor, your English professor, is retiring. Oh, nice. What a good guy. So many people have stories of being strongly influenced by their English teachers. Well, hopefully he has a happy retirement. And if he's like most English teachers I know, he's got a novel or two he's been plugging away at. Hopefully now he can actually finish it. But yeah, global warming sucks. But all the stuff with aerosols and energy efficient fridges and all that stuff shows that with the right circumstances, society does adapt and move on. It's just you can't make it's just like too big a leap and then it becomes too daunting. If you just trickle it at a time, it goes better. You love that guy? Well, did you send him at least a thank you email before he left and lost access to his school email? Can you find him on Facebook? Tell him thank you? Cause that's the kind of stuff that sticks with somebody. And when you get into old age, having that kind of positive mental reinforcements can make a huge difference in people's life. I mean, even when you're not old, but you know. It's always good to tell people they matter. Because you never know when you'll have the opportunity. I love that Zon. Zon's teacher thought he was a troublemaker, so he kept applying to her classes until she finally got over it. Incredible! God, I had a teacher like that too. What was it? It was like a first or second year elective that I had to do. And what is it? She called me out on doing something because she thought it was disturbing the class. And I counterpointed that her calling me out on this one thing and prolonging this discussion, trying to get me to stop, was more disruptive to the class than whatever the heck I was doing on my laptop. She was not happy. That sounds really nice. Yeah, that sounds really nice, Ranger. Aw. Well, I'm glad you at least got to tell him. So he stuck around in like his 50s teaching. That's cool. Blah, 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 blah. Oh god, my eyes are itchy today. Freaking allergy season. She straight up said to my face, "I'm surprised you signed up for another one of my classes." I told her it felt like I had something to prove. Damn. In that way, you almost proved her right in being a troublemaker. You certainly had the markings of one. I gave him the firmest handshake. Aww. That's nice. See, he'll probably remember that for a while, but for you, it was a very formative moment of your life, which is great. I love community. I'm like an introvert. So I'm like, please don't force me to socialize that often. But I love people on the intellectual level. I love society and connections and like the good we can all do and how we can influence each other and all that stuff. Kindness makes the world go round. Much nicer than money, which also makes the world go round, but that's more of an unfortunate byproduct. Related to that, I was making a joke with Iduna because I was putting together my budget for June. And it's like, I have to pay back the money I borrowed from Iduna when she helped me cover vet bills. And then also, there's like, the adult concert in August that, like, we need to pay for hotels for. So I sent Iduna a DM and I'm like, I just calculated my budget for June. This is what I'm eating for This is what I can afford based on my grocery budget. And it was a picture of, like, the ice cube soup meme. Like, it's fine. I can survive on sweet potatoes for like a month. That just means it's gonna be a good month. Yeah. I have an English professor that I really liked. She's actually one who taught you how to do essays. Interesting. I feel like you have talked about it before that, there are a lot of science people who don't know how to write well, because I remember you were like, Dee Dee, teach me how to write my essay, because I had, like, good suggestions or something like that. Well, having an imaginative mind and knowing how to apply it are two different things. Like, I have some great ideas in my head for art, where if I put pencil to paper, it's not gonna be the same. It's not gonna be the same degree. It takes time to be able to craft stuff that comes into your head as a thought or an image and put it down on paper as close to possible as like what your ideal is. That takes a lot of effort. Writing, a little bit easier, but you still need to be good about picking the right wording and stuff like that. Remember, what's the word I'm looking for? My gripes with proper formatting in writing, like novelization stuff. Because poetry books, if you ever look at poetry books, they're a lot of fun. They can be a lot of fun. Because in poetry, you're allowed to play with the formatting. When you're writing a novel, they're like, no, new subject, new paragraph, indent. Poetry books, you can write about falling head over heels in love and actually have the words, like the letters, like stumbling over each other. It can be very fun. Like, what do I even write about? How do I structure it? What topics and in what order? Well, first of all, you pick your topic. Are you the type that just goes... Forgive the wording. Are you the type that just goes in raw? Like, you try and write one draft and it's done? Because that's not how writing works. I mean, you can do it, but you have to be really good to get something, close to good on the first try when it comes to writing. Literally, how I used to write my essays is I would have everything in point form, like as like a rough structure. Hold on, I'm cooking. So you get your ideas out on paper, like, you know, like introduction goes here. Point 1 will be this. Point 2 will be this. Point 3 will be this. And then conclusion. And then as things come to you, you gradually build it out. That's how I would always do it. Because if you try and start with, like, the introduction, you're like, I don't know how to start this, then you're never going to get anywhere. But at least if you start putting information down, you've got something slowly taking shape. Rather than trying to chisel a statue out of a block of marble, you're building a statue up from clay, and you can work at different sections at different times. And as for how you transition between ideas and paragraphs, it doesn't gotta be fancy. My favorite word in essays was in addition. Like you start with your intro. It's like, first of all, blah, 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 blah. In addition, then your second point, finally, third point, and then in conclusion. Hi, Jambola. There's no good way. There's no, like, one best way to write an essay. You gotta have to find what works. But oftentimes, people just overcomplicate it, especially in, like, a secondary school, university setting. Like, unless you have to write a thesis, it doesn't need to be fantastic. It just needs to be good enough to convey the ideas and make sense. Yeah, I mean, I technically always did one draft, but because I started it out with point form and gradually built the paragraphs up, it didn't feel like multiple drafts. Because, you know, this way, if I ever got stuck trying to figure out how to word something, but I had an idea for something later on in the essay, I could just do that. Like, especially if, like, you know, it's an essay where you have to include quotations. You could just plug the quotations in and build the paragraphs around those as well. Just having the quotations and then having the citations properly formatted is a good chunk of the essay as well. Like, Master Schemer, teach me. It's hard to teach people just stuff, abstractly, but yeah. You're doing fine. I mean, and see, here's, like, you know, here's the crazy thing. Let me... Come close, children. Let me in on a secret of the working adult. Unless you stay in an academic field, like you actually, like, stay a scientist or whatever, you'll never actually have to write the essay again. Like, when you get into a workplace, they will probably have if you have to write reports, they're gonna have a format that they want you to adhere to. There's gonna be a template or something like that. Do I get, like, my friends to just write smut to get better? I mean, that's what I did! But yeah, no, like, what the essay does that's helpful is it teaches you how to take a basic concept, research it, present your findings in a report of some kind. Like, that's what you really need to be getting out of the essay, and that's more or less what they're grading you on. They're not expecting, purple prose or whatever here. Like, I've never gotten a compliment on my essays going, wow, you wrote such a fantastic sentence. Like, maybe sometimes I'll get a wow or, like, comment or something and it felt good, but, yeah. So it's like, yeah. So you guys who are in science fields, if you actually want to stay in, like, the science fields, I feel like, yeah, learning how to write is important, but from my understanding, you guys would be doing it more in the form of, like, an experiment log or, like, you know, a scientific paper, and that has very different formatting than an essay. So don't worry too much about, you know, the English essay. It's helping you learn how to research and format stuff. But in the science field, lab reports are much more important to learn. So ooh, no, not the 14-year-old lemons. Correct. We usually log things, summarize, and note, and not really write essays. Yeah. 95% of the time, I'm writing emails. I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I had to write a long form something or other from scratch. Because usually, like, if I have to... they're like, oh yeah, this is a response to a very common question. Like, this was when I did PR stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this is a response to a very common question. Go to the word bank and, like, you know, because, like, you know, we've, like, they pre-prepared answers pre-approved answers to very common questions, and you just like copy, slap it in. Like, that's part of the reason I left PR, because there was very, very little opportunity to actually use creativity. And like literally a monkey could do this. The real skills in PR is knowing when to keep your mouth shut. Don't need to use pen and paper in the future? It's probably not mandatory. I mean, a lot of people do find pen and paper more convenient, but I did have a coworker who had a similar thing. I don't know if he had shaky hands because he wasn't actually at the same apothecary as me. But, in Canada, we have the Disabilities Act, and I know in the US they have something similar. If you get the position and you need some kind of accommodation to do your job, as long as it's reasonable, they have to accommodate you. So yeah, if you can't use pen and paper because your hands shake too much, they will probably find ways to avoid you having to do that if it comes up at all. I mean, when you have exams, I mean, at least when I was in school back in my day, when you had exams in like the gym or whatever, you still had to write by hand even if most of your assignments were were like written on the computer. In those cases, the accommodation they give would probably be, yes, you can use the laptop, but they're probably going to be sitting in the room with you and you're under strict supervision, and they have to make sure the Wi-Fi's disabled or something like that. So yeah, don't worry too much. I mean, like, yeah, I occasionally write things by hand, but that's just because there is actual evidence that says if you write stuff by hand, you retain it better. Something about the actual muscle memory action of writing something commits it to your brain better. So how I used to study for my exams was I would rewrite. Like, I would read my textbook, sure, but I would mostly be rewriting my notes and, like, my textbook summaries as many times as I could. And then, like, you know, in the last, like, 2 days or so, just rereading everything over and over and over and over. Makes sense compared to tapping a bed. Yeah, for better or worse, like, yeah, in class, I would type my notes because, like, you know, it's faster. But when it came time to study, I would write everything out by hand. Because rereading everything over and over, my mind starts to wander. Writing out everything by hand, I'm A, committing it to muscle memory, and B, I'm actively engaging with whatever it is I'm studying. That method works a lot, actually. Nice! Now, I don't know if writing with, like an Apple Pen on the iPad or whatever works quite as well as writing pen and paper by hand. But, like, that's a compromise I found. But, I mean, Apple Pens aren't necessarily comfortable to hold for long periods of time, but... But I think it helps to some extent. Because I definitely was having a really hard time learning kanji and stuff like that, just reading it. And then, so, you know, I started writing the kanji and, like, the words and stuff out in notebooks. And then once I got to, like, about 3 notebooks worth by coincidence, I ended up getting a new iPad. So I started writing all of my Japanese practice in the iPad. And I mean, I think it worked. It's not perfect, but... Sorry, I'm getting the game started and there's like bell sounds in the background. It's making me think of school bells. Did you guys have like actual bell sounds? Like bling? Or did you have some kind of weird buzzer? You had a jingle? Gotcha. Been long enough that I'm like blanking a little bit. I'm pretty sure we had like it was a mix between a bell and a jingle kind of thing. And I know in Japan they have like the actual jingle as well. Like I forget what song it is they play, but it is actually like a snippet of like a classical piece apparently. House is like a 20-minute walk and I could hear it from there. Oh no. Bow bow. The jaw sound. Oh my god. That's incredible. Man, wait till instill anxiety in a child. Like they're running late and then they're at their locker and you just hear, yeah. Yeah, like, great, thanks. I was already anxious. Now it sounds like something's out to kill me. There were no horror movie, literally. Man, I never even thought about it, but I guess Jaws technically does count as a horror movie. Probably not so much nowadays, because we've been desensitized because there's, like, 12 Saw movies out there, but, like, back in the day. She's not a Pokemon? Diana! Diana! Trying to resize everything because, UMINEKO is old and the aspect ratio is a little different. Where is chat? Chat, where'd you go? There it is. There we go. Alrighty. What sound does the kitty make? What is this? UMINEKO, which literally means sea cat, but UMINEKO, the word, means seagulls. So, have you heard of the critically acclaimed Higurashi no Naku Koro ni? This is UMINEKO no Naku Koro ni. So, but also by Ryu Kishinana, but, less horror, more like mystery. I might honestly just get a video off of the amount of times you spoke in cat. Beautiful. If you don't know it, I highly encourage checking the opening song to the anime. True, it's very grandiose. So, because yeah, I talked about it on my social medias a little bit, but everyone in this game has what they call a kira kira name. And a kira kira name is like a name that's written in kanji, but it's not, the kanji's not read the typical way, or it's like they basically just picked those kanji either for their appearance and they force how you're supposed to read it, or they like just picked it for the phonetic sound. So the example I always use, because it's the most current one I can think of, is Oshinoko. Because one of the main characters is Aquamarine and a Ruby. And their names are Kira Kira names, because they're spelt with kanji, but it's like, it's weird. Especially Aquamarine, because his is like love, eternity, love again, ocean. Like, it's like, what? DD-Min, DD, and Pikmin. Pixel art came out in the end. Yeah! I didn't know you did pixel art. It's really cute. Pixel art is fun. I used to do like quote unquote Photoshop editing back in the day of my OCs, but of course this was before it was easy to get a hold of editing programs that had layers, so I was trying to do everything on one single layer in Paint. It was a disaster, but I tried my best. Alright, open sesame! Clipping in Twitch mobile is a tad weird, though, I am sure. Anything in a mobile does not work perfectly. A little side thing I do for fun, definitely not addicted to drawing pixel. Definitely not. It's good to have a hobby that's like unrelated to your profession, though, because that's how you can like unwind and stuff. So yeah, if we've got any newcomers, we're still really early in the story. Basically, everyone in this game is either an Ushiro Miya, or they are employed by the Ushiro Miya. And the Ushiro Miya are like a very rich family. Like, they've been rich since like the 1800s. But like there was a disaster that happened in the early 1900s, and like a lot of the family passed away, and Kinzo, who is the current head of the family, ended up becoming the heir because he was like the only boy that survived or something like that. And through like a crazy amount of windfall and good luck, he ended up taking advantage of the war, like the World War II and the Korean War and all that stuff, to rebuild the family, like the family's bank account. And then he bought himself an island and built a Western mansion on it. And since this dude is obsessed with Western things, he gave all of his kids white people names. So, we've got Rudolph, Ava, Klaus, and Rosa, as well as George, Jessica, and Battler. The only one who has like a close to quote-unquote normal Japanese name is Maria, and also George a little bit, because Joji is how you would pronounce George, and that's a normal Japanese name too. Employment! Yes. So yeah, this is like their annual family conference kind of thing. And like, for the average person, that would be like, our family reunion. But I guess back in the day, it would literally be a conference because the kids borrowed dad's money to invest in their own businesses and stuff like that, so they had to report back to him about profit and losses and all that stuff. But yeah. And so now they are trying to figure, the parents are in the tea parlor trying to figure out inheritance stuff, and it turns out, you know, business is not going well for these siblings. So it would really be helpful if, you know, Dad died any second now. Someone's getting murdered Detective Conan style, and we gather clues to find the culprit. That could very well happen. I know the basic gist of UMINEKO, but I don't know the fine details, so this is mostly a new experience for me. So I'm like, very obviously I know a lot of murders happen. Not sure exactly how it all pans out. With a keen eye for details, only one truth prevails. Ah, Conan. So yeah, so the parents are in the tea parlor fighting over that stuff. And they shooed the kids away so they could have their adult talk. So we were hanging out with the parents as they, like, you know, stabbed each other with proverbial words. And now we're checking in on the kids who are they're going for a walk. Yeah, nothing quite like, you know, sitting down with tea with your siblings and they confront you that they did professional investigations into your portfolio and they know you're in a shit ton of debt and you keep making bad business mistakes and that you embezzled father's funds, and this is how they're gonna try and leverage to get a bigger chunk of the inheritance when Papa finally passes away. Because, yeah, like, it was, like, last year that Kinzo, the family head, was told he probably only had 3 months left to live. And he's managed to stick it out for, like, you know, 9 months. So they're like, reasonably it could happen any second now. Because bro's addicted to absinthe, so... And that is not an exaggeration. Literally, they talk about how the alcohol he drinks is like the color of poison. And when the butler was preparing a glass for him, he heated a spoon with sugar and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that is straight up absinthe. No wonder he's lost his mind. The good old absinthe. The good old absinthe. God, my big bro Amelis went to Europe at some point and he brought some back. I have no idea if my parents ever actually broke into it. I was drinking age by that point, but I'm like, oh hell no, I'm not trying this. I've heard horror stories. Like, I don't know if it's true or not. But if he felt the need to basically smuggle it back into the country, I'm like, ah! Like, I don't think it's actually illegal to bring it, but, like, I think it's just, it was discouraged at the time. You sure don't find absinthe in, like, the local, in the liquor section of the corner store, anyway. As we did, we once again spotted that witch's portrait. I've done some things, but I've never gone straight shot of that absinthe? Yeah, that would just be... And I mean, that's basically what Grandpa has been drinking. Absinthe with, like, sugar. Like, damn. Like, he's been a heavy drinker all his life, so I guess that's probably one of the only things that gives him a buzz now. But oh my goodness. As we did, we once again spotted that witch's portrait. However, spotted is probably not the best word to describe that experience. God. Sorry, talking about the alcohol and stuff just reminded me of a story Papa Melis told on the weekend that I barely remember. Because, Papa Melis had gotten weed from the neighbor, and, like, I come home from high school, and apparently I took one look at him, and I went, oh my god, and I went back in my room. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. The only thing I remember is him be like, you're not gonna tell, like, your mom, are you? And I'm like, I don't want to be a child of divorce, son. Do you think I'm stupid? It was more like our eyes were inexorable. Good God. Sometimes the words they pick inexorably drawn to it. Role reversal, literally. I mean, Papa Melis was like hippie, so I don't know if he's ever done hard drugs. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, like, at least dabble at some point when he was younger. But yeah, Papa Melis was, like, telling, like, relatives, because they were like, oh, Diana, do you want something to drink? We have, like, Coke or whatever. And I'm like, nah. And Papa Melis is like, yeah, she's boring. It's like she doesn't drink soda. She doesn't eat sugar. I'm like, ugh. Like, I used to drink alcohol, but, like, you know, medication says I can't. So I'm like, whatever. If he was around during the 60s, 70s, you never know. Yeah, no, he was born... I mentioned before he was already in his 40s when I was born. He was born... like 1949? I think? I'm not 100% sure. I can never remember my parents' exact ages. You being healthy? Yeah, my current vice is I drink way too much coffee, and I've started having the occasional energy drink, but it's like 0 sugar varieties. And it's only when I'm at the apothecary as opposed to work from home, because then this way I don't have to keep supplies on hand to have coffee. Because, you know, a can of an energy drink is cheaper than, like, you know, a to-go coffee kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. Late millennials and Gen Z, it's a very different atmosphere. Because, yeah, 80s, 90s, and even when I was coming of age, drinking was really pushed heavily. Like, it was like the marketing was like very, 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 very intense. Now it's kind of swung the other way, which is probably for the best, because the amount you do hear stories about young people, like in their 30s, early 40s, who have like severe liver damage because they partied way too hard. That woman's eyes, with their sage-like glamour, definitely had the power to make those who viewed it stand rooted to the spot. So this is the witch Beatrice. Wonder if that story's true. Oh! Ah yes, Maria. She just oozed everything. Battler doesn't believe? Back when he had asked what this picture was, the first person to tell him had been Maria. Therefore, when Battler showed signs of doubt, Maria must have felt that Battler didn't have faith in her. Of course, that wasn't what Battler meant. Maria ran up to the portrait and began banging on a plate hanging below it. Maybe the title of the portrait was written there. I thought she was gonna bang on the painting. I'm like, don't touch it! Don't touch oil paintings! Maria, trying to prove that she wasn't lying, obstinately continued to hit the plate. Sorry about that. It's not like I doubt anything you said, Maria. Ugh! Better beliefs! Ugh! When he patted Maria's head and apologized, she seemed to accept it, sticking out her chest and proudly oohing. She a monkey? What's this? My beloved witch Beatrice. Behold the sweet fish river. What's up with this weird, huge epitaph? The plate did have the title of the portrait written on it, but it was much too big to contain only that. Beneath the title was what appeared to be a long epitaph. If you just skimmed over it, several unnerving words would jump out at you. Incredible, isn't it? Grandfather had that made. Pretty deep, huh? Oh, I know! It's the place where the gold's hidden! Not the gold. Wait. Is that story about the Ushinomiya family's hidden gold? Now there is another thing I remember from long ago. Of course they have hidden gold. Of course they do. They came into power, they were in power around the war, and they came into power during a war. Of course they have hidden assets. This man, Grandpa probably don't trust a bank with his life if he could help it. Hold on, Aniki? Is this for real? For those of you who don't know, Aniki? Like A-N-I-K-I is a more formal way to say older brother. You'll definitely hear it a lot in like Yakuza movies and stuff like that. And then Aneki, A-N-E-K-I is the female equivalent. Because Aneki has the ni for Nichan in there, which is the more common way to call your brother. And then Aneki has the ne in it for like Nechan. Grandfather had this made, but he never said anything about this picture or the epitaph. Even so, amongst the family, it is often whispered that it indicates the location of grandfather's hidden gold. And that he will relinquish the inheritance and the gold to the person who solves the riddle. Ah, I think I know what this is. I vaguely remember something about the witch's epitaph or something like that. So I guess that's it. Oh! I heard that too! I heard that too! Lots and lots of gold! Gotta get that gold. Gotta hustle while you're still young. Well, something like that. Something like 10 metric tons of gold bars! Jesus! This was the 80s too. That's a shit ton of money. I think it's fake though. Still, when you read about it in an epitaph like this, it almost seems real. I would like to hold at least one gold bar someday. Gold is truly an interesting thing because it is both extreme soft in terms of metals, but also I dare you to drop a gold bar on your foot. Would still hurt like a mother effer. Would probably still break your toes. I think I already explained grandfather's upbringing, but let me also mention the Ushinomiya family's legend of the gold. Grandfather succeeded the Ushinomiya family after it was destroyed in the Great Kanto earthquake. Ah, yes. The Great Kanto earthquake. Where, like, a shit ton of the casualties were because, everything was made out of wood, so the ground shook hard enough and everything just fell like a deck of cards. Like a house of cards. Just... And by successfully riding the stormy seas after the war, he managed to accumulate great wealth. That much of the story everyone knows. However, this is where the strange part begins. Part of it involves grandfather's black magic obsession, so its credibility is extremely low, but... well, wait until the end before you doubt or make fun of it. After the war, grandfather correctly predicted what the future would hold and won in a huge gamble, accumulating a vast store of wealth. But there's a mysterious legend about how he gained his initial funding. Grandfather came from a branch family and had no connections in the business world or the financial world. Even though he later built connections with the occupying forces, he supposedly started as a nameless person who hadn't yet gained anyone's trust. It takes trust to gather money. There's no way anyone would lend money to someone they didn't trust. I mean, I guess you might give money out of the goodness of your heart, but... how did grandfather, who had no reputation at all, managed to obtain his first vast chunk of funds? When asked that question, grandfather supposedly answered like this. On a certain day, I encountered the Golden Witch Beatrice. Grandfather then went on and on about his continuing research into alchemy and techniques for summoning demons in order to become a great magician. Oh, not the demon summoning. Well, he Shin Megami Tensei'd his way to $1 million. And the entity summoned as the result of the demon calling ceremony was the Golden Witch Beatrice. He then apparently made a contract by which he would receive fortune and honor in exchange for his own soul. Very Faustian. The witch then granted grandfather 10 tons of gold. Grandfather used this gold as collateral to prepare a vast quantity of funds, which he then used to multiply his wealth many times over and revive the Ushinomiya family. It seems the story's so old that even our parents were told it when they were still children. So back when our parents were young, they explored the island in all sorts of ways, believing that the gold grandfather had received from the witch might be hidden somewhere. However, since there was the danger of them getting lost in the abandoned forest, grandmother began to spread the story that the witch lived in the forest and approaching it was forbidden. I remember that old story. When we were little, we also went all over the island searching for treasure after our parents told us about it. Didn't we get lost in the forest once, then start crying until some of the servants found us? Our parents got so mad. Dang, that takes me back. We sure were idiots, weren't we? Were? I think y'all still are. After all, grandfather only bought this island after using those funds to get rich, right? That means he must have had the gold before coming here. There's no way the gold's on this island. That's not necessarily so. Maybe the gold was hidden on the island from the very beginning, and he bought the whole island just to ensure that it'd be his, and his alone. There was a whole 10 metric tons of it, right? Seems more realistic that he'd try to secure the place where it was hidden rather than trying to move it all. This epitaph was made 2 years ago, and since Grandfather wrote it himself, yeah, it does make the legend of the gold seem more believable. The so-called witch's gold that revived the Ushinomiya family weighed 10 tons. Maybe that's sleeping somewhere, ready to be turned over to whoever can solve Grandfather's riddle. Maybe that's why he did it. I guess that sounds like Grandfather's style or something. Hee hee. If it's true, that's pretty incredible. The epitaph carved into the plate was very mysterious, with something like a poem or a song written on it. The text was incredibly disturbing, filled with the signs of Grandfather's black magic hobby, and its contents were truly in bad taste. But it could definitely be viewed as a puzzle, which, if solved, might lead to the hidden gold. Well, are you gonna let us read the whole thing, or are we just gonna be kept in suspense the whole time? Whether that's what he intended or not, I can't even imagine what his true motive might have been. All we know for sure is that Grandfather put this shady epitaph here so that everyone in the family could see it. We also know that he hinted at the existence of the gold without ever talking about where it might be hidden, at least so far. These facts then were embellished by the imaginations of our parents, who were convinced that Grandfather was challenging us to a battle of wits. Sounds just like my dad, so greedy that he takes something like this so seriously. He'd laugh at Grandfather's black magic obsession, but he'd still believe this story about the hidden gold. It just sounds so good. Well, it's certainly not a realistic story. At that time, when Grandfather was still nameless and had no connections, there was no way anyone would just lend him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. If such a person actually did exist, it's not unthinkable that Grandfather would call such a sponsor a witch. Hi, Butter! Welcome in! Yeah, but it's 10 tons! 10 tons! If he cashed that in, how much would it come to? I mean, it'd have to be a ridiculous amount, right? It certainly would be a ridiculous amount. They say that the total amount of gold mined by humankind since the dawn of history is 100,000 metric tons at most. Damn! So Grandfather's got a 10th of all the gold humanity has ever mined. That's crazy! How's it going? It's pretty good, pretty good. Enjoying some UMINEKO. We're finding out about Grandpa's gold. That one 1/10,000th of all the gold humankind has obtained throughout history should belong to just one person is just insane. On top of that, this witch supposedly had all that gold collected in one place and was able to lend it to Grandfather just like that. Grandpa be ballin' with that gold, he sure will be. And also, hello, Ellen. We're not talking about any ordinary person. Well, to me, that 10 tons number seems pretty fishy. Yeah, I mean, Grandpa having some gold to use as collateral makes sense. 10 tons of it, though? After all, no one's actually seen it except Grandfather, right? Even if we assume that some generous witch existed and lent him some gold, maybe it was closer to 10 kilograms than 10 tons. the Scramps be getting them those new Nike shoes? 10 kilograms. 20 pounds of gold? I mean, that's still a sizable chunk of money. Even 10 kilograms would be a pretty incredible sum. Back in war times? Yeah. Ugh. 10 kilograms of gold is how much? Maria, who wasn't following the story and felt like she was being spoken to in riddles, finally found a place where she could ask us a question. It was a question I also wanted answered right then. Whether it was 10 kilograms or 10 tons, it felt like a huge amount, but I had no idea exactly how huge. George Anarchy folded his arms and tried to remember the market price of gold. Well, even the value of gold is affected by the market. And the value of physical gold can change depending on its purity and the trustworthiness of the foundry. You'd also need to pay handling fees to cash it in. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's a precious metal, and some people estimate that humanity will mine all the world's gold within half a century if gold mining continues at its current rate. Damn. You know, I never thought about that we might, have mined all the gold in the world. Just guessing haphazardly, I think you could expect a price of about 2 million yen per kilogram. Damn. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 20 million yen for 10 kilograms of gold. Sheesh! Whoa! Just now I randomly said 10 kilograms since it sounded smaller. But even that would be worth 20 million yen, wouldn't it? Oh? I weigh 28 kilograms. Which means that if we had Maria-chan's weight in gold, we could estimate its worth at over 50 million yen. That's just unbelievable. How much would 10 tons be then? I mean, how many kilograms are in a ton? 1,000? $10 kilograms is 20 million yen, which you multiply by 1,000, so 200 million? Huh? 20 billion yen? What the hell? Never mind. I was off by 3 zeros. I'm not good at math, especially not mental math. How much is 20 billion yen actually worth? We can only measure it relative to our own pocketbooks. Anyway, let's say that a person's wages over a lifetime are about 20 million yen. Damn. You grow up and work like crazy, sacrificing your life for your company, and you're finally freed as you approach old age. Everything, including retirement money, might add up to about 20 million yen. In other words, that's the amount of money that will be made throughout a human's lifetime. No, you could even call it the value of a life. So 100 times that sum is an unbelievable amount of money. If you work from age 20 to age 60, that's 40 years of work. So it's equal to 4,000 years of work wages. Jesus. And no wonder Grandpa's insane. If you worked every day starting from the Jomon period, that is, yeah, Jomon was in the BC era. You'd only reach that number about now. Ugh. Is 20 billion yen a lot? Heck yeah, it's a lot. Maria, you love shortcake, right? You could buy more shortcake than you could possibly eat for the rest of your life. However, all that might be possible with 20 billion yen in cash. I don't think it would be very realistic to have that much in gold bars all in one place. Just as I said, gold is extremely heavy, so it isn't exactly convenient as a method of storing wealth. Sure, you could imagine someone gathering their fortune together as incredibly high-value stocks or precious gems. Ah yes, Rin Tosaka. You often hear of people who traded their wealth for precious gems so they could carry it around with them during the chaotic times of the war. But you don't usually hear stories of people exchanging their wealth for gold. It may be heavy, but it's the most trusted and stable form of wealth internationally, so maybe that was important? I mean, that is a good point. That's the thing, right? Like, the value of gold does vary with the market, but it's always gonna be more solid than any nation's currency. Because I remember there was a big hullabaloo way back when about making the US dollar the standard for gold. Or something like that, and that would have really broken the economy. So internationally, they really fought against it or something like that. I can't remember the specifics. It was a long time ago I learned that, but yeah. For example, bonds are just scraps of paper if the whole country goes under. You can also look at it that way, but even one 10-kilogram ingot is pretty heavy to carry around. Haven't you heard? A 50-kilogram person can't carry a 50-kilogram bag over their shoulder. With that many gold bars, the amount of labor and risk for one person would be hard to calculate. So what you're saying is, while it'd be one thing if you had a stack of banknotes worth 20 billion yen, 20 billion yen in gold would be such a big mountain that practically it'd be kind of pointless. That's right. Although the legend of the gold does have a pretty interesting ring to it, just the part about the 10 tons of gold makes it pretty much impossible. Unless it was alchemy. If you think about it logically like that, it sounds obviously fake. Kind of brings you back down to reality. Anyway, that's grandfather for you. Maybe he exaggerated the story of how some kind, wealthy person gave him a loan by saying he got 10 tons of gold from a witch. Hiya, Mattis! Good evening! Even the number 10 tons feels pretty symbolic. You mean like his gratitude for the money he borrowed was worth 10 tons of gold or something? Maybe some rich man's leisured wife generously granted it to grandfather. And maybe he started calling this person a witch. You know, that's probably not far off from the truth. I see. Jessica's example isn't bad. Someone who'd generously lend a huge sum of money to grandfather when he still had no reputation might as well be called a witch. Furthermore, grandfather actually did use that money to build a vast amount of wealth later on. The fact that this person was so great at judging people might also justify calling her a witch. Also, since she went to the trouble of lending all that money, she might have enthusiastically overseen how it was spent. The decision to unexpectedly get involved with the occupying forces and profit from the Korean War demands might have been inspired by the witch herself. That might explain why he claimed to have received both wealth and honor from her. So it wasn't Grandpa at all. He was just listening to the pretty lady whispering in his ear. Men. Take all the credit for a woman's work. I see. So in other words, the witch lent grandfather the funds necessary to revive the Ushinomiya family. And he owed her big time. And then he felt so grateful that he had this huge painting drawn and displayed. Yeah, it's not that crazy a story. It's even possible that this person was an old granny who looked like a witch. Maybe grandfather idolized her, and that's why he had her drawn to look so beautiful. I bet if we ever did meet this person, she wouldn't be nearly this pretty. That's possible. The name Beatrice sounds pretty Western, and if you think about it, how everyone in our family has Western names. Maybe even the name Beatrice is the result of grandfather trying to rearrange some Japanese person's name to make it sound Western. I get it. Or, it was an actual white woman named Beatrice and he's obsessed with Westerners now. That means this pretty girl doesn't exist outside the picture. Guess that means I will be... Oh, boy! In the first place, isn't having a witch pretty bizarre by itself? Like, you could find something like that anywhere on Earth. Every time, so much hate. I laughed and made fun of the witch, trying to distinguish myself from the kid I was 6 years ago, who feared the witch of the forest when Maria tugged on my sleeve. I could tell by how hard she pulled that she was a bit upset. What is it, Maria? Ugh! Beatrice exists! Maria stared up at me. She had been on her usual sour look, but I could tell she was angry by the color of her eyes. Her eyes change colors when she's angry? That's not normal. Witches exist. Witches exist. Ooh! Well, sure, they do exist if you turn on the TV and watch anime or something. Exist! Witches exist! She's not talking about, Majojo Doremi or whatever it was called. I started getting impatient, not knowing why Maria was jumping on me like this. Then Jessica tapped me on the shoulder and whispered, Ojamajo Doremi, thank you! Dumbass, you're smashing a kid's dream. Maria really believes things like witches and Beatrice exist. Come to think of it, Maria-chan, in social studies at school, when you were asked to write what you wanted to be when you grow up, you wrote a witch, didn't you? Maria nodded seriously. Tears started to run from the corners of her eyes. I see. To a girl who wants to become a witch in the future, the existence of Beatrice was proof that witches do exist in this world. It was therefore an image that she yearned after and admired. Exist! Exist! Is she slapping him now? But like, how many kids that age did write things like ninja or dinosaur? Pretty much, yeah. For a 9-year-old, pretty calm, pretty normal. 9, 10 years old is kind of when you start shifting away from childish dreams to like slightly more realistic ones. So depending when she wrote that she wanted to be a witch, like, it's very realistic. It's okay, witches do exist. I believe it. Judge Aniki kneeled down and hugged Maria's head. Watching this, Jessica poked my side. So that's what it is. It's like shouting that Santa Claus doesn't exist in front of a child who believes in him on Christmas Eve. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to shatter kids' dreams. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of your dreams, so I apologize. Beatrice does exist. Even now, she's living in the forest and comes to the mansion every night to peek in and see what everyone's doing. So you shouldn't go into the forest. At night, you mustn't stare into the dark forest. You might be seen by the witch of the forest, Beatrice. After all, grandmother said so. Ugh. Really? Battler really believes? Yeah, I believe. Sorry for doubting it. Come on, let's make up. I stuck out my hand. Maria grabbed it with her tiny hand and we made up. Maria didn't grumble any more than that, so George, Aniki, and Jessica were relieved. Oh? So this is where all of you were. I was sure you had just left to go to the beach. Shannon-chan, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered in front of the portrait. Ah, Shannon! Well, this is the first time Battler has seen Beatrice's portrait. He was just fascinated by it. That's right, it certainly is fascinating. Beatrice-sama is truly beautiful. I am sure that she captivated the master. Ha ha ha! In addition to the patron theory, there's also a theory that she was grandfather's first love. Either way, although it's been several decades since he met her, even now, she holds a special place in his heart. Which must mean that he's still captivated by her. Sheesh! That must have made grandmother pretty jealous, huh? I'm not really sure, but that might actually be true. Apparently, grandmother believed he was cheating on her with some blonde. Sheesh! Damn. Thanks, Grandpa. Excuse me. Sorry. That one snuck up on me. Ooh? Good smell. Good smell coming from Shannon. Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon was holding with interest. After hearing that, I noticed a fragrant scent with a touch of vanilla. Ooh, she made cookies. Ah, I apologize. I was told by Kumasawa-san to bring them to everyone. What is it, I wonder? Ooh, excellent! Cookies! Ooh! Wanna eat cookies! Wanna eat cookies! Please eat as much as you would like. But, would it be appropriate to serve cookies in a place like this in front of the portrait? Shannon-chan sent us a glance that seemed to ask what we wanted to do about it. Well, yeah, eating here would be bad manners, generally speaking. Maria, why don't we go eat someplace else? Let's put the cookies in a bento and have a picnic. Yeah, picnic! If we can eat cookies, let's go! Yeah, let's go. Let's go get some fresh air. Let's get out of here. We shouldn't stuff ourselves right in front of the witch. That's right, did we say we wanted to go down to the beach in the first place? Let's go! Shannon-chan? Sorry, but could I ask you to get us a blanket to sit on and some flasks of tea? Oh, right, certainly. Shannon-chan received her instructions and gracefully bowed before retracing her steps. We headed for the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in a group. Feeling as though that witch was staring down at our backs, I turned around once more. Ugh. Battler, you still don't believe? Nope, I believe. It'd be so much cooler that way. The Golden Witch Beatrice gave Grandfather 10 tons of gold. And that gold might be sleeping around here somewhere. Besides, didn't Grandfather write that strange epitaph as though challenging us to find it if we can? I'd say that kind of adventurous story's way better. 20 billion yen worth of gold, huh? Even if we split that between the 4 of us, that's still a ridiculous amount of money. ¥5 billion for each of us. Incredible! With that kind of money, you could probably make any sort of business prosper. Or you could gamble it all away and then, well, you know. In fact, we could all live our whole lives fabulously without working at all. Ooh! I don't want 5 billion yen, I want cookies! Fair. Same girl? It's like that meme, if you press the left button, you'll get, $5 billion, but you can never have sweets ever again. Or you can push the other button, and you will have a lifetime's worth of sweets, but very little money. Which do you press? Deal, you get 5 cookies and they take your share, right? What a bargain. Oh! Meanwhile, while these kids are skipping along, la 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 la, let's have a picnic, la 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 la, let's eat cookies, we've got the frickin' parents at each other's throats. Ridiculous. Is it possible that you all truly believe in Father's legend of the gold? Of course we don't believe that story about a witch giving him gold. But there's no mistake about the gold itself. The fact Father obtained gold bars from an unknown source has been confirmed in several ways. We've heard that before the president of the Maruso company died, Father showed him a large pile of gold somewhere. Father used that man's claim as proof that there were 10 tons worth. That's just the nonsense of a senile old man. Along with Father, he was just fabricating a story. You can't take it seriously. If that gold didn't exist, he wouldn't have been able to gather so much funding. Before the president died, he was a person with such a sincere personality that he earned the respect of many in the business world. He wouldn't have become a partner to such fraud. Aniki, the president of Maruso, definitely saw it. 10 tons of it, clearly with his own eyes. Even more, Dad let the president take 1 ingot at random and have it examined. The results of the examination showed that the 10-kilogram ingot was 99.99% pure. Jesus. That's incredible. He said that Ushinomiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was imprinted on it. And almost instantly, the Ushinomiya legend of the gold spread amongst the fixers of the business world. Is that Sephiroth's cousin? Yeah, it's Sephiroth's American cousin. Thinking that it was a chance for decisive profits, they accepted it as collateral, and as a result, Father was able to receive massive loans. Is there no limit to the absurdity you're willing to accept? How old are you people? Are you still taking the nursery tale you heard as children seriously? Where is the proof that 10 tons of gold even exists? Aren't you just parroting the lies of father and a few of those close to him? It's kind of wild considering you're the one who would most benefit from finding the gold. Of course, it's just a story. But still, Aniki, the amount of money Dad raised required a suitable amount of collateral. Even if the gold itself was just a rumor, it's an undoubtable fact that he showed them a treasure of comparable worth. It was just an illusion of money created by our penniless father. He acted as though he actually had gold that didn't exist, fooling his sponsors. It was probably the gamble of a lifetime. Luckily, his use of those funds proved successful. If the Korean War demands hadn't come and the Rishiromiya family had not been restored, father probably would have been hounded as the crook of the century. So are you saying the gold never existed and father made it all up? Of course. And because of that, the illusion of gold became a mere inconvenience once he'd achieved enough success. That's why, later on, father added all that about a witch and black magic, weakening the credibility of the entire story. In other words, he revealed that the illusion of the gold was a fabrication. If he claimed to have received the gold from a witch, no one would believe that it existed at all, right? It's also possible he said it all for your sakes. Nevertheless, here comes some stupid offspring wanting to divide up this non-existent gold along with the rest of the inheritance. Rosa, don't tell me you believe that fabrication. I can't prove whether or not father really had the gold. I just want to claim my rightful share as one of father's 4 children. Oh? Seems even you start to talk that way, Rosa. I see, so that's what you're all getting at. You're trying to claim that I'm attempting to keep all the gold for myself. Nissan, you've gathered a massive supply of funds. That's a fact. If we rule out the possibility that you've been embezzling father's personal funds, which, you know, that's a crime, then there's only one possibility left, right? Aniki, we've been thinking. Oh, thinking's not good. It's never good to do the thinky think. That you might have found those 10 tons of gold bars. Ridiculous. Such a thing never existed in the first place. Then explain yourself. Was it embezzlement of father's assets? Or father's hidden gold? How could you have gathered so much funding if not by one of these methods? Even I have many friends in the political and financial realms. I have earned their cooperation. Nothing more. Press F to doubt. And on that matter, I have no responsibility to explain myself to you. Yeah, that certainly sounds like an admission of guilt. Where's the receipt? Where's the loan contract! You understand, don't you? There are some topics that ought not be spoken of. Huh. If you insist on that point, that's all well and good. For now. But Aniki, Dad doesn't have long. Nobody can ensure that he'll live to see this day next year. The inheritance process will begin at the instant of Dad's death. We'll arrange for lawyers and accountants who are impartial to all of us and have them inspect Dad's financial situation. At that time, if it comes to light that you've unjustly interfered with Father's money, you understand, right? I don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're starting to make me feel as indignant as my wife was. Of course, Father's gold is part of Father's fortune. We understand it's money you can't reveal openly, but the four siblings should have an equal right to it. In other words, we're gonna have your financial situation investigated as well as Dad's to determine whether you're hoarding the gold or not. Isn't this a great opportunity? Right now, prove the existence of your so-called support from friends and acquaintances. That way, we can sportingly apologize for foolishly doubting you. Right, Rosa? That's right. Kraus Nissan, you are the one who's dodging the issue. If you were guiltless, you could just prove that you were in the right, but you aren't even trying to do so. However, Aniki, we still have to consider your position here. As Dad's representative, you're probably bearing a larger share of the burden than we are. We've been living terribly relaxed lives until now, so it wouldn't be fair for the rest of us to complain without taking your efforts into account. Oh? Seems you can't make up your mind whether to flatter me or slander me. I mean, don't do anything slander-worthy and then we don't got a problem. It's just that simple. Keep it simple, stupid, as they say. Please get to the point. Basically, randomly investigating nitpicky aspects of Father's wealth seems like a pretty crude way to go about it. As you said, Klaus Nissan, there may have been many movements of money that are difficult to explain. We've come to consult with you today while fully aware of that point. Both sides stand to gain from talking about this now. A consultation. Hole. This guy really likes his holes. When the inheritance is divided, you'll be rewarded for your years of hard work taking care of Dad by an agreement that's generous in your favor. Don't misunderstand us, Nissan. We aren't saying that we'll abandon our rights. But when we make our claim for what we deserve, we might as well offer a generous understanding for your position. That's what we mean. In other words, if you accept our conditions, then when the inheritance is divided, we'll leave the investigation of Father's financial situation to you, Kraus Nissan. Whew. Damn. Backed him into a corner good. All the siblings from Ava downward suspected that Kraus was trying to steal their father's wealth. So letting Kraus report the state of that wealth was extremely contradictory. and a huge concession. If, as they claimed, Kraus was actually embezzling the money, Kraus would be able to hide that fact. Besides which, it'd be possible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable to himself. Kraus, realizing that this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel suspicious. He couldn't help but worry about what they'd ask for in exchange. Oh, after mistrusting me completely, you now say that you're willing to restore your confidence in me as the eldest sibling. So what is it you want in return? Just what we deserve as siblings. You aren't the kind of person who'd steal Dad's property. But you also aren't being financed by some patron. Considering all that, there is a certain explanation that satisfies the rest of us. Nissan, you found 10 tons of gold and used that as collateral to gather some funding. They have so much bad blood among them. I mean, considering how, like, their dad raised them to be this way. It's funny because he talks about his children being vultures circling, waiting to pick apart his corpse, and it's like, you made them this way? This is your fault. Like, you let them money for business, and then you made a yearly family reunion, a conference meeting, where they had to report financial situations, and you would beat them if they lost money. Like, come on. Grandpa put his hand on the stove and was shocked to discover that it was hot, and he burnt his hand. So then so as a consequence, he had the oven smashed with a hammer and then had them all banned. Just like Father did in the past, right? If that's the case, there won't be any funny business in Father's finances. You've always been a good son, looking after Father. Why'd we mistrust a person like that? You're being so roundabout I can barely understand you. Please speak in clearer and more practical terms. Our first condition. Aniki, you must admit that you found Dad's gold. Are you asking me to admit I possess gold that doesn't exist? Wait until they finish reading off the conditions. Our second condition. You'll acknowledge that each sibling has a right to a share of the gold, and you will pay out those shares. How foolish. With that non-existent 20 billion yen of gold, that would be 5 billion yen per person. Are you telling me to pay a total of 15 billion yen? Ridiculous. Keep listening till the end. We know that much money can't just pop out of nowhere. We're not asking you to make an impossible deal. Of course, regarding the portions of the gold, we plan to reward you plenty for your hard work until now. Our third condition, the portion of gold to the one bearing the title of successor to the Ushinomiya head family will be 50%. The remainder will be considered the fair share of the siblings and divided up. Of course, this also includes you, Klaus Nissan. Of the 20 billion, 12.5 billion will go to Aniki. 2.5 billion will go to Ava Nesan. 2.5 billion will go to me. And 2.5 will go to Rosa. That division scheme makes me so grateful I could cry. So you're saying, for the sake of the gold that doesn't exist, I must pay you 7.5 billion yen. What's wrong? Nissan, your share is 5 times the size of ours. These are such good terms, I'd be jumping for joy. Our fourth condition. The gold will be liquidated and distributed along with their inheritance at the time of father's death. However, as a deposit, 10% of our portions are to be paid to us promptly. These payments must be made before March of next year. What do you think, Kraus Nissan? This is an ideal chance for you to restore the trust regarding your handling of father's assets, isn't it? Oh my god, this is quite something. Because they truly don't believe he found the gold and that the gold doesn't exist. They think he's been embezzling Dad's funds, so they're like, this is happening in October. They're like, we'll give you 6 months to cough up 7 billion yen, and then we'll get off your back. But just getting that much money is... It'd be cheaper to have them assassinated. Of course, it might be impossible to get a whole 7.5 billion before father dies, but it should be possible for you to manage a deposit of 750 million, right? Paying 70 million in half a year might sound like a pain, but you should be able to manage it, what with all your friends in the political and business spheres. Normally, we'd be happy to receive 7.5 billion right now, all at once. But out of concern for you, we'll show our sincerity by asking for only 10% of that for the time being. The remaining 90% can wait until the inheritance is distributed. See? Even you'd be capable of managing a mere 10% to show your sincerity. So you're trying to sell me the rights to assess father's financial situation for 750 million yen. How impressive. You all certainly have grown. To think that I'm now the ones being offered deals. Nissan, if you accept these terms, the rest of us siblings will leave the investigation of father's assets to you. However, the results of that investigation will be subject to scrutiny. It's only natural, right? We'd be so sad if you managed things so that our 7.5 billion shares shrank. We'll avoid complaining as a general rule. Just make sure you do it neat and tidy. As long as you don't try anything that's blatantly obvious, we've got no intention of stirring things up. We want our inheritance quickly, too. We don't want it to get all drawn out and left hanging. If a complaint is made, you would carry out the follow-up investigation. We don't mind if it's you. This is probably the first and last chance for our siblings to reach a consensus. I believe it won't come to that. Looks like even you can speak up now and then, Rosa. By this point, it's obvious that Klaus wasn't at all trusted as the oldest sibling, so there's no need to go into detail. The formerly tyrannical oldest brother had always abused his privileges and violated the other siblings' shares. It was in response to this that the other three now adults were finally teaming up and striking back for the first time. Sorry, but there's more. There's more. Shouldn't someone be taking notes of this meeting? How are y'all gonna draw up a contract? Our fifth condition. This decision must take precedence over father's will. Oh, that's nasty. Later on, we don't want some will to appear and make this decision completely irrelevant. I see that you're very cautious. Then let me ask, if the gold really were found, what would you do? Since you'll be making payments to us for what the gold's worth, the rest of us really don't care if we ever see the gold or not. You can think of our share as an advance payment. It's good to have dreams, isn't it? You plan to turn the island into a resort, right? You might stumble upon the gold by chance during construction. Ava let out a high-pitched laugh. Krause watched, but didn't even flinch. Let me add a 7th condition before I accept. In the situation that any sibling other than myself finds the gold, they will immediately turn it over to me. Yes, of course, we'll hold on to it for you. It was a play on words. Of course, the others who were forcing Krause to pay money for some non-existent gold wouldn't save Krause his portion if they actually found it. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Krause. Regardless of the actual facts, it was still extremely likely that Krause was embezzling his father's assets. When Kinzo faced death at last and had his inheritance distributed, some unpleasant facts would surely come to light. That could easily become fatal to Krause. The others had spotted this weak point and were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring a huge sum of money out of him. However, they had forgotten one thing. They'd forgotten that their brother's brain moved so swiftly, at least when it came to cunning and guile, that they'd been forced to band together to combat him. While Ava couldn't stop smiling, sure of her victory, Krause let out a gloating laugh to show how relaxed he was. This all makes for such a touching story. My estrangement from you all has left a deep pain in my heart. If accepting this condition means we siblings can become friends again, it would please me to no end. I'd be happy to agree to your deal. Rejoice, Rosa. We have reached an understanding. Rosa's expression dimmed. It was never a good sign when her brother started talking like this. Ava also keenly picked up on this. That's why she was unable to wipe away a sense of unease, even though Krause had obediently accepted the deal. My, how obedient of you. It's not like you at all, Nissan. What a cruel thing to say. Are you implying I have some kind of ulterior motive? Of course I don't. I'm just the same as all of you. Just the same as all of you. You seem to emphasize that one part. Color of Rudolph's face darkened. Ooh, all the siblings are in money troubles, huh? To him, it sounded as though Krause was saying, I have a plan similar to yours. Time to break the tension. Hara hara. Hara hara. Hara hara mama. Scandalous. Hello, Ein. So Rudolph panicked. He rushed to bring this nearly resolved discussion to a conclusion. Then we're good. So, Aniki, would you mind signing here This is a written contract summarizing the discussion we've just been having. There's one for each of us. Everyone will sign for the same contents. Rudolph took 4 contracts out of his breast pocket that had details, their deal written on them. He had 4 contracts in his pocket. Sorry, the brain rot got to you. I had to come back. Understandable. And how's Ocean Cat going? Well, clearly they're threatening their brother. It's all good times. The 7th condition you proposed will, of course, be added right now. Can't say he's unprepared. Oh, absolutely. I mean, just most people would have contracts in like a briefcase or something, not your frickin' breast pocket. Don't worry about that. Aniki, need a pen? Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Kraus. Kraus made as if to accept it, but then, with a small laugh, he drew back his hand without taking it and spoke. Actually, in order to ensure that this agreement is properly executed, I'd like to propose an amendment on just one point. As soon as Kraus said that single sentence, all of the siblings felt as though something ominous was creeping up their backs at the same time. That won't do. You've already decided, haven't we? Just stay quiet and sign it. Why are you in such a hurry, Ava? Of course I'll sign. I promise the share of gold going to all of you will be 7.5 billion yen. I also promise that when father's inheritance is distributed, I will cleanly and neatly liquidate it. However, there is one point that I simply must insist that you compromise on. What are you talking about? What don't you like? The part about promptly paying 10% of your share, 750 million yen. As you pointed out, my financial situation is far from prosperous. While I can guarantee that I will collect on various future investments, I must admit that I am quite poor at the present moment. In short, I have absolutely no money that I can move around right now. I am incompetent, and my business sense is dull. Since I am the loser you all claim me to be, I don't have the power to move 750 million yen in just half of a year. That can't be true. Are you trying to deceive us with such a half-baked trick? At the time of the division of the inheritance, I will liquidate everything at once. Remove the condition that I must pay you 10% in advance. That is the only condition under which I am willing to sign. Kraus Nissan, that 10% is nothing more than a number to measure your sincerity, isn't it? All things being equal, you shouldn't have any room to negotiate at all. We're doing you a huge favor just by offering to let things slide for just 10% in good faith money. Now that we've explained that, you rejecting our offer would seriously damage our trusting relationship, right? Hideyoshi had a humble expression on his face, and he was rubbing his hands together, but his eyes weren't calm at all. Kraus had already seen through to the shadow in the depths of those eyes. Why are you all in such a rush? Or could it be that you're afraid of something? Rosa, won't you tell me alone? Secretly. so the rest of the siblings can't hear. It's not as though I quit it, Aniki. All we're asking is whether you're going to sign it or not. Just forget about making any strange deals or other suspicious moves. Oh? You say I have no room to negotiate. Are you trying to claim that I am in a weak position, which therefore puts us in an unequal relationship? Shivers began to crawl up Rudolph's back. He began to feel himself getting overwhelmed by the height of his brother's completely insurmountable wall and the long shadow that had existed since they were children. Shouldn't deals be made between those on even footings? From my perspective, this deal will help restore the long-lost trust of my younger siblings and deepen the love between us. It's an old problem that's been eating away at me, and one I would prefer to resolve as soon as possible. I would be overjoyed if we could resolve it today. However, it seems I'm not the only one who would be quite glad to close this deal quickly. Am I wrong? Kraus stared at each of his siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow in avoiding it, so he was caught by Kraus's gaze. Hideyoshi-san, I hear your company has been doing extremely well lately. At a brisk pace, it went public, and both its track record and its stock prices have soared. I am truly jealous. We aren't here to talk about my husband. However, it is unfortunate that you have neglected your stockholders. It's even more unfortunate that you were unable to solidify your base when you became stock listed. Before you realized it, some bad-natured colleagues of yours had bought up a huge share of your company's stock, right? How could you know about that? The same way you knew about me. If it's possible to collect evidence proving that no one would offer a loan to me, then it's possible for me to collect evidence on you. Is it really so unexpected as that? Kraus grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was rapidly turning pale. Hideyoshi's company was a restaurant chain management company that he'd started from nothing. Thanks to Hideyoshi's management efforts, the company had achieved success repeatedly, expanding its range, and a petition to make it a stock-listed company had recently succeeded. The greatest advantage of being in the stock holding system is that you can sell stock certificates and gain a large amount of financing. The amount tends to be far greater than a business's normal profits. So this is an extremely effective way to gather massive funds to expand a business even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders gain certain rights. No way they're explaining how stocks work. And as I'm reading this, all I can think about is how Cover, the company that runs Hololive, is stock listed now. They're given rights that allow them to observe and guide the company they've invested in, leading to profits even greater than their original investments. And people say games aren't educational. It truly depends on the type of game. A fun business lecture in my video game! Yeah! It does give context. Oh, absolutely. It was just funny. I'm like, no way they're explaining stocks in this level of detail. And I mean, depending how old you were when you played this game, you might not actually understand what stocks are, so... It's giving me more info than school ever did. Yes, Ryu Kishinana. He taught us about Japanese law in Higurashi, and now he's teaching us about economics. This right is guaranteed to the stockholders, and they sometimes use it to dismiss ineffectual management. The right allows them to keep an eye on management and prevent the money they've invested in the company from going to waste. However, if they use it forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. After all, dismissing management and nominating new management are powers held by the general body of all shareholders. That power is determined by the majority decision of the stockholders. And people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. This is just reminding me, coincidentally, this is just reminding me of how frickin' Seto Kaiba took over Kaiba Corp. He just quietly bought up slowly all the funds around his father until he had slightly more than Dad, and then he put pressure on him to buy up the rest. In other words, if some person or group holds a majority of the stock, they can freely chase out the old management and make the president anyone they'd like. Then he made a time machine. He made a time machine so he could go play card games with the object of his affection. Did they explain it in some way about owning 51% of the cards? Yeah, that was the metaphor Kaiba used to explain it to his younger brother. Which, I mean, makes sense. How else are you going to explain stocks to, like, a 6-year-old? The Pharaoh's beautiful coiffed of hair, yup. Sometimes I think about, you know, Kaiba Corp and how it's passed on in the future. Because I feel like there was no way in hell Seto actually got married and had biological children. But he also probably would have been terrified to adopt a child the way that his, what was it, Gozaburo Kaiba did with him and Mokuba. So in my headcanon, Mokuba eventually inherited Kaiba Corp because he's the only one who had kids. And ran it into the ground. Stop! I mean, Kaiba Corp was still around during 5Ds. It had a pretty good track record. If they want, it's also possible for them to make themselves president. Most companies take various defensive measures to stop malicious people from buying up their stock and threatening their position. So what you're saying is, we just need to buy up more stock in X than Elon, and we can finally get Twitter back. Come on, if every user of Twitter buys one share, we can kick him out. Like ensuring that lots of stock is bought up by those close to them, such as company employees. Is it publicly traded? Twitter? I'm pretty sure it is. Most big companies are publicly traded these days. However, Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock listed, and he hadn't had time to strengthen those defensive measures. Or maybe Hideyoshi was so engrossed in the management of his company that he couldn't properly understand the dangers of being stock listed. It's hard to say whether he should be viewed as a kind-hearted manager immersed in the work of management, or a foolish manager who had his feet swept out from under him. In other words, there existed some people who wouldn't let him get away with the naivete unscathed. They began repeatedly buying up stock in Hideyoshi's company, rapidly gaining such strength that they couldn't be ignored. Then they sent anonymous documents to the shareholders in an attempt to gain control of a majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders." Wanna bet that it was Kraus? "Let us force the current management to retire. Cut the current wasted investments. And let this company be born again as one that gives more back to the stockholders." That'd be ingenious. I mean, if the cost of buying up all the shares in the company is significantly less than what he would get in terms of inheritance, if he can force Ava to, like, give up her right or something like that, or agree to a less generous cut, it's money well invested. It's very difficult to make the actual state of a company's management known. The fruits of Hideyoshi's sleepless nights and constant concern for his company were cruelly distorted, and he lost the trust of his stockholders. Thanks to these efforts, the group had almost collected a majority of the company's stock. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed it started to buy back the stock. But the stockholders realized that the company was undergoing an acquisition maneuver, and each demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continually tortured Hideyoshi, who had no leeway in the negotiation of the price. I mean, I get not wanting to let your company go, but if you can negotiate a very generous severance package, why wouldn't you let it go? You could just start up another company. One of the certainties of capitalism is that the price will rise when two parties vie for the same thing. And one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. Might have just been pride. Yeah, might have been pride. Oh, pride. It's a hubris, all right. Never be so proud that you let yourself get into worse situations. So in the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stock wins. Put another way, whoever has the most money wins. Unless Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money at this critical time, he could easily lose all he had built so far. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money! Right now! Why is this in caps? We get it! We know he needs a lot of money right now! We can figure that out! To show his urgency, I guess. But it just feels like it came out of nowhere. They could have just put it in an alternate color of text, but yeah. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance since no one knew when he would die. And you, Rudolph, you have been in quite a lot of trouble lately too, haven't you? You always hear people say it's terrifying overseas, but it seems it really is true. American trials are settled quite emotionally. They never hand down generous judgments to foreigners. Weren't you advised by your lawyer that making a settlement with the other party would be more economical in the long run? Wait a second. Why is Rudolph being sued in America? What did he do? What's this all about? Well, it's just some trouble from work. Oh, he didn't even tell his wife what was going on. Ooh. No big deal. Nothing you can't settle with money. Kitty immediately guessed the meaning behind the subtle expression on Rudolph's face. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge. Had been worrying over it alone. That's right. In this world, anything can be settled with money. After all, it can even buy back the broken bonds between siblings. America is very fussy about the violation of rights. But with money, anything can be settled. Long live capitalism. Though, rumor has it, that the settlement money could be as high as several $1 million. A certain niche industry. What niche industry? What on earth have you been doing? God, I'm afraid. However, a niche is a niche. It definitely wasn't a business exposed to the light of day. Did he invest in porn? I'm trying to think. Like, porn? Drugs? An American corporate giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. Copyright infringement? I'm like, what on earth could this guy be doing that he got sued by an American conglomerate for violation of rights? And he's in a niche industry that doesn't see the light of day, like... Erotica or something similar would be the most illegal of those. Jesus. But even so, there was a way for this to be resolved with the money. If he could just pay that money, it might still be painful, but he'd be able to pick himself back up. The light of day kind of locks it in, yeah. God. No wonder Battler hates him. It also makes sense because of Rudolph's personality and also Battler's. Man. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. Rosa, you're a good and noble little sister. You wouldn't get yourself involved in a dangerous money game. However, your soft-hearted nature has brought you trouble, hasn't it? In my opinion, becoming a co-signer for anything isn't something one should enter into lightly. No, not the co-sign. Oh, God. Literally, you shouldn't co-sign any sort of loan unless it's with your child, basically. And that's just because it's easier to leverage your relationship with a child in that case than, you know, co-signing for a friend. Because you hear, I swear, you see it in the news at least once a month that someone got left high and dry because they co-signed on the loan for a friend and acquaintance or like a family member they're not particularly close with, and then the person's just dust in the wind. Like, they refuse to pay off the loan or whatever, and so then it lands in your lap. That's none of your business, Kraus Nissan. Rosa uncharacteristically laid bare her emotions and yelled. After all, no one was supposed to know that. As Kraus watched, he let slip a muffled laugh. Without exception, every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed. After all, the person the youngest siblings were threatening was the only one who had no urgent need for a large sum of money. The other three, however, wanted a lot of money quickly, no matter the cost. In other words, the longer it took to establish the steal, the better position Kraus would be in. Kraus was extremely sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden his knowledge until the very end, striking back only after analyzing their attitudes. If it were possible, I would like nothing more than to raise some money for my adorable siblings in their time of need. But unfortunately, I have nothing on hand. If you know any sponsors that might be able to raise a whole $750 million, I suggest you try there first. Kraus's elated words were so obviously detached from what he actually felt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. If they could think of a sponsor that convenient, they wouldn't have kept up this charade. Have any of you, well, Dad's, you know, kind of insane right now, but have any of you considered just asking Daddy for money? Did any of you consider swallowing your pride and, you know, fessing up to Dad? It's like, for the love of God, please. But no, God forbid they show weakness in front of each other and their siblings, so here they are. Trading blows like this is a courtroom without lawyers. The betrayal and backstabbing doesn't have smelly potions. True. You know, honestly, another thing they could have done is frickin' steal the silverware and sell and pawn it off. If they really didn't want to, you know, ask for help and risk getting found out, they could have just stolen stuff from the house. There's no way Dad's gonna notice. He doesn't leave his room. Well, no, you wouldn't be able to gather all the funds you need just by stealing a few things from the house, but it would have helped. It would have helped, you know? However, if you do insist on relying on your big brother, I wouldn't mind using my influence to help you find such a sponsor. Technically true, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is, you know, not letting this get away from you. So any payment you can make towards debt is technically a good thing. They say, like, oh, you don't want to just pay interest and etc. But it's like, even if all you can do is technically pay a little bit over interest, that's still better than nothing. So what they were asking is, they were asking for 10% of their inheritance up front as a way to get money quickly. So it wasn't going to be 700, it would be 750 billion split 5 ways once all of Dad's assets were liquidated. But they were only asking for 750 million. So it was 750 million to be split 5 ways, I believe. Oh wait, I do believe you said that I have no influence. In total, correct. That's what they will get. They were saying like, oh yeah, so we understand that, like, you know, it would be really difficult for you to pay out our inheritance. And, like, you know, it's gonna take time to investigate and all that stuff, but we'll let you handle it. We'll trust you. But in a show of sincerity, you have to pay us some money within 6 months. And that was the trap they were all trying to lead him into to get the money they need to settle their stuff. But Klaus is now the one in power because he doesn't have an urgent need for money. Like, yes, he's in debt, but he has investments that he's just waiting to pay out. Because his whole thing was he predicted that there was going to be a certain industry boom in Japan, but he made the prediction too early. So, like, you know, construction on his facilities finished, and then they went empty, and he was losing money. So, in theory, he's just waiting for a windfall. And I mean, he's living in his childhood home without paying rent. They just need enough money to pay the servants. And so, and he's the oldest. So, you know, literally, no sweat off his hands. He's got no mortgage, whatever else. Technically, he is poor. But as long as he can get enough money for the day-to-day necessities, like, he's fine. It's everyone else who's in trouble. Because they were talking about how the Japanese government was doing something, like had announced that like the next year they were going to be supporting the industry that Klaus had invested in. So he just has to wait. Like he's still technically gathering more debt and digging a hole. But technically, he's in no rush. He's just waiting for his investments to pay out. He doesn't even need his dad's inheritance. Likely not. Because the way the siblings tried to corner him is they're accusing him of embezzling dad's money. Because they were like, your business has kept losing money, so where did you keep getting the money to build more stuff to try and dig yourself out of the hole? We think you're stealing dad's money because, you know, dad's gone kind of crazy and he doesn't really realize what's going on. Like, we can't prove necessarily that you've stolen the money, but, you know, when Dad dies, we're gonna hire accountants and we're gonna investigate, and, you know, if we find out at that time that you've stolen the money, we're gonna sue your pants off. But if you give us 10% of our inheritance up front, we won't investigate you. And so, like, they were trying to pressure him, save the headache and stress kind of thing, pretty much. So they were trying to pressure him with fear of losing all of the inheritance because they found out he was embezzling money, and like, embezzlement of funds is a federal crime, and Japan has a very high prosecution rate. So, like, you know, they're like, basically, if you give us money, we won't send you to jail. But Kraus is finally like, wait a second here. You guys keep talking about how much of a shitty businessman I am and I have no money, and therefore I must be stealing Dad's money. How do you expect me to pay you guys money in 6 months? How about we just remove that, and, like, you know, when the inheritance comes through, you'll get your money that way. And then that way I don't have to worry. And they're like, well, wait, hold on. And he's like, no, what? You hold on. Why are you guys so anxious to get your money? And now, you know, tables turned. Because he doesn't care. He can just wait. They're the ones who are, like, sweating, waiting for money, so. Kind of just playing with them at this point. Yup. And then they're all gonna have dinner together. Surely nothing bad's gonna come of this. Kraus's low, gloating laugh began to fill the parlor. The younger siblings, who had been driving the oldest brother into a corner till a moment ago, could do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth. Ava? Don't make me laugh, as if I'd ever put myself in your debt. Don't make me laugh! Don't make me laugh! If we relied on you, how exactly would you help us? I told you, didn't I? All I can do is find other sponsors for you. Of course, I will negotiate for the highest interest rate possible. Wow, what a piece of shit. Damn you, taking advantage of us. Honey, please calm down. I am calm. I'm extremely cool. You bastard. Kile grabbed her husband's hand, but that action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Kraus laughed as though watching something highly amusing. In times like these, it certainly would be nice to find Father's hidden gold. If you did, you could split it up into 2.5 billion yen portions right now. How sad, how sad, how very sad. How extremely, totally, truly, hopelessly sad. Tonight, let us all drink together as we solve the riddle of Beatrice's epitaph and discover the location of Father's hidden gold. If we four friendly siblings work together, there is surely no puzzle we can't solve. Meanwhile, with the crazy man. Quite an entertaining scheme. Well then, what are the conditions they've attached? I think I hate Rudolph, but well played. Well played. Well, whether or not Kraus-sama actually discovers the gold, he'll pay Ava Sama, Rudolph Sama, and Ilza Sama a total of 7.5 billion yen for their shares. Oh my god, who is eavesdropping and now is reporting this to Dad? Terrible. However, 10% of that will be paid before March. Kraus, you dunce. The furniture, I guess? You know, that makes sense. That does make sense. But you'd think he would have his feet swept out from under him by his younger siblings. How truly amusing. Are they not reporting that Kraus turned the tables back on them? But it sounds as though they tripped when going in for the kill, yes? Ah, yes. Good old Kanon. Yes. Kraus-sama exposed the fact that Ava-sama and the younger siblings all have an urgent need to get money. Is there even any need to expose such obvious facts? That irresolute, incompetent man. What are they doing now? That conversation has been put on hold for the time being. Now Beatrice Sama's epitaph is being discussed. So they're trying to solve the riddle and find out where my gold is hidden? Yes. Kinzo set down his spectacles and snorted. Will the miracle be fulfilled first? Or will those fools expose the gold first? What a show this will be. The very moment those fools solve my puzzle, I will suffer utter defeat. They can suck my corpse down to the last fragment of bone. The greed of fools can allow great magic to bring forth a miracle. UMINEKO! And yet, if the fulfillment of the miracle comes first, if it comes first, Beatrice will be resurrected again! The smile I've been chasing half my life will be restored! And there he goes again! Beatrice! Soon will come the sacred night when we shall bet upon a miracle. The game of demons shall begin! I will surely prove triumphant and survive. I'll let you have the lives of all those others. I don't need wealth or honor or assets or gold or my children. All I want is to see your smile one last time. And there he goes. Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. I don't think you're supposed to be getting too excited there, sir. Kanon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo motioned for him to stop. Do you know why I went to the trouble of exposing the hidden location of the gold in a place that everyone can see? No. It is because magical power is determined by risk. If the number of people who try to discover Beatrice's gold is great, and the danger of them succeeding is great as well, then the power of magic will bring about a grand miracle if we succeed, despite the odds. In other words, magic is a game. It's a holy grail war. It is not the case that the one who performs the best becomes the victor. The victor performs the best because he has been granted magic. Do you see? It is similar to how the miracle of life can be granted only after winning against the divine odds of several hundred million to 1. Is that a little difficult for you? My apologies. That's fine. It all comes down to this. He's surprisingly nice to Kanon, considering how he talks about his biological family. Excuse me. I will give all that I have built up to the one who solves the mystery of Beatrice's epitaph. Wealth, honor, gold, and the inheritance of the Ushinomiya family. Everything that I have established. My children certainly aren't the only ones with the right to attempt to solve this riddle. Anyone who solves the riddle will have the right to gain everything, even you. Yes, however, I couldn't possibly understand such a difficult riddle. Of course, I made it difficult. But you must try to solve it as well. What's Kinzo gonna do? Yell at furniture? Wow! Go to your room. Go to your room and think about what you've done. That will form the seed that summons the miracle of my magic. If everyone attempts it and everyone fails, that will be that. However, if the miracle comes together and gives birth to magical power, it will happen. Beatrice will revive. That is why you must attempt it too. Everyone must attempt it. And in so doing, they will give strength to my magic. Do you understand? Yes, I will try. For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and clutching at his head. Kanon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo eventually realized this. Very well, leave me. There is a bag of sweets on the liquor cabinet. You can take some with you as a reward. I'm fine. After all, I am furniture. So furniture doesn't eat sweets. Well, I suppose it stands to reason. In that case, leave me. Yes, excuse me. Kanan bowed and left the study. As the door closed, a heavy locking noise sounded out. That's kind of grandfatherly almost, right? He's surprisingly nice to Kanon. But it was not the sound of Kanon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to seal himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. God forbid, I don't even want to know what he's doing about going to the bathroom. He was already unable to trust anyone excepting not the children who shared his blood, but those servants who called themselves furniture. Nanjo-sama, how are you feeling? Ah, Genji-san. Oh, it's just that there's no place for me to be anymore. With a bitter laugh, Nanjo turned to face the door of the parlor. That look was apparently enough to tell Genji what Nanjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family situation. It must have made him want to frown, knowing that right now in the lounge, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. But it would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression. Still, I don't understand. Why did Kinzo-san have something so provocative written, I wonder? Nanjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait, at the plate with the epitaph. I do not presume to understand the master's thoughts. However, I'm sure he had a deep reason for doing so deep. Since long ago, when Kinzo-san played chess, he would always prepare his moves according to some far-reaching judgment. Yes, sometimes even to make moves I couldn't understand. For an average person like me, it was impossible to see through to whatever it was he was planning. Sometimes I wonder if this might be some kind of will in the Master's eyes. Perhaps he wishes to hand over his wealth and title to the one who can understand it. So you're thinking he may have wanted the four siblings to work together and solve the riddle, before some outsider like myself solved it? Kinzo-san may speak of his children in insulting terms, but perhaps he also wants them to repair their relationship. It certainly would be heartwarming if, as Nanjo had suggested, the epitaph had been made to repair the siblings' relationship. However, both Genji and Nanjo knew that nothing could be more impossible than this. They'd known Kinzo longer than anyone, and Kinzo trusted them more than his own relatives. But even they could not guess at his true motives. The Master always says that everyone has the right to try and solve the riddle, even if they aren't a member of his family. What about you, Dr. Nanjo? No, it's a little too difficult a puzzle for this senile old man. Actually, I once wrote this epitaph down on my notebook. Night after night, I would try to solve it before going to sleep. But, it really is hard. Looks like we might have some free time to relax and consider it before someone comes to get us. What do you say, Genji-san? I am nothing more than furniture in service to the Master. Golden assets are unnecessary to me. My, you're very modest. I imagine that's why Kinzo-san trusts you so much. If so, I am honored. As Nanjo lightly laughed in response, he once again looked at the epitaph. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the golden land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. The epitaph on the portrait called My Beloved Witch Beatrice goes as follows. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the golden land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the golden land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the golden land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. Oh, yay! Murder! On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the 4th twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the 5th twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. Kinzo had innocent thoughts while writing this, honestly. Okay, so 6 people die? And then by night 2, 8 people? Third night, no murder. Fourth night, 9 people die. 5th night, 10 people die. 6th twilight, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 people die. Gouge the knee and kill 12 people. 13 people? On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. Okay. So how many people are in this house? Whoops. New images. Oh my god. Hang on. I accidentally switched the art. No! There we go. So, okay. 4, 8, 11, 14, 18. So there's 18 people in this house. And over the course of the whole thing, you gotta kill 12 people. But it says on the last night, on the 10th night, the Holy Witch will revive and no one else will be left alive. So, yeah, you gotta get away with killing 12 people. And then at that point, you get unstoppable power and you can just go on a murder spree. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain the power of the Golden Land. And once and for the last time, the witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Okay. So the witch is like, yo, here I am. Here's the gold. Here's everyone back that you killed. Here's that girlfriend that you lost. And now I'm going back to sleep. Bye. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. Doop, doop. All right, that seems like a perfect spot to stop for the night. Meanwhile, all the kids are at the beach. Umi! These, they're crazy, man. Like crazy. Hang on. Is there any tips still? Oh, the portrait's epitaph. Oh, it's just a record. Okay. Fair enough. Alrighty. Ta-da! Oh, things are picking up steam. Things are starting to get good. Very exciting. Let us see here. Who can I rate you guys to? Kuma's playing more Duck Detective the Secret Salami, so that sounds perfect. Another banger stream. I'm glad you guys enjoy. It's cute. Whenever I play these games where I end up reading a lot, I've noticed chat goes silent. It feels like, you know, when you read a story to like a bunch of kindergartners and they're just completely enraptured, like, what's gonna happen? Nobody say anything. I love it. Alrighty. Listening aloud for sure? Excellent. Can confirm? Beautiful. Yeah. I always assume you guys are just chilling out when no one's active in chat, so don't worry too much about lurking. It's appreciated when people comment now and then, but yeah, it's no worries. Because I am also not a very active chatter when I'm in people's streams, so I'm like, yeah, whatever. Just vibe. We good. Alrighty. Oh, time to go throw myself in the shower and get ready for bed. So I'm gonna send you guys off to Kumaso for some cute duck detective. I mean, Kuma is adorable. I love her voice. It's so soft. Alright, here is Reido. And here is Discord if we've got any lurkers who would like to come along and keep up with everything we do when we're not streaming. I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. EST. So for now, that is gonna be it for me. So, if it's daytime where you are, have a wonderful rest of your day. And if it's nighttime, have a great rest when you head on off to bed. Until next time, take care of yourself. Wash your face, brush your teeth, eat good food, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.